Great. So today we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. So this has been on the news for a while. There's been a lot of protests and a lot of news coverage on this topic. So I think it would be very interesting to discuss this topic in class. So just to go through with what we are used to, the 5W and the 1H. So what is this referring to? Evan, can you tell us a little bit about this?
I remember that a black guy called Floyd, and he was found by with Stephen, right? Stephen stolen. He was stolen. He stolen some money, and he was caught by police. And the police was the policeman got him and how to say that and praised him by his leg, and though Floyd is plead and say that he couldn't breathe, but the police keep the stress on his neck, and finally he died, and that induced a lot of insurgent protest in America.
In America,
and most people think that is a problem like discrimination between black guy and white guy, and they are not be treated fair.
Okay, right. They're not being treated fairly. Okay, right. So Billy, why did it happen?
Yeah, just like Evan said, the same. I saw the news from the TV. Yeah, I think obviously it is race discrimination, especially white police use force to check or to examine the black without any respect. So right now we can see a lot of protesters marched to the streets around the world, such as Australia, South Korea, and the UK, Canada, and I think it's not unfair because we are all human beings. We all have the right to survive or to own, to win, to have the respect without different or worst discrimination. So sometimes I think the president of America, Trump, demonstrate a bad behavior, and I think as a result, I think the survey of election, Trump gradually lose the advantage, not only because of the COVID-19, but also the event. I think impact is election a lot. That's all.
Great, thanks for sharing. Okay, Wilson, so who is participating or affected by the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think a lot of people in United States join the parade or march or protest to appeal their ideas about how to eliminate this kind of things. So and a major problem is like their police system. I don't know how to say their police political system. Yeah. And so they want to reform their police policy or police system. So many people think their police have large power to investigate people on the street, or their police can shock people if they
shoot
people. So they want to dispower the police.
Okay, so they want to try to take the power away from them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about people affected? Who will be affected by this movement? Is it just Black people?
Just Black people,
and just Black people, or do you think different race are all affected by this? Because this is a problem that has been in America for a long time, right? Racism. Doesn't matter. Black.
I think the minority, the minority who has been discriminated for a long time. So everybody around the United States wants to voice for them to fight for their rights.
Okay. Yep. Great. Okay, thank you so much. Great. So this is the pre-reading. Did everyone have time to do this?
No.
Evan, you're smiling. Did you do this?
No, I don't.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Okay. Yeah, Billy, did you do this?
Yes.
You did it? Wilson, did you do it?
I did it.
You did it? Okay.
I read it.
Oh, you read it. Okay. So I think we're going to talk more about the article here. So let's just move on with discussion first. So for racism, this is the brainstorming session here. Form of racism. So education. Under this, do you think that there's any form of racism that is or applies to education? What do you think, and how we can reduce this? Billy, what do you think about education?
I think we some because of political issue, some countries teach their citizens or teach their children let their race is more better than others race, or better than other countries, or more intelligent than other race. I think some education system used by politicians to make they can get a great advantage by late. I think it's not it's it's not a good behavior or system for the education.
Okay, so you're talking about the education, people educating people about the race. So one race is more superior than the other.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about like talking about, do you think that there's more maybe different ways of getting higher education? Do you think that applies? What do you think about this, Evan?
Yeah, I think this question is it's somewhat tricky because we know that like Chinese people, Taiwanese people, they are usually working hard on their studies or in school, so they might get a higher grade in the exam. But we know that in Harvard, they had a limit for the students from China or from Taiwan, and that has been argued. I saw that had been argued maybe last year, and I think that is kind of racism. And but it's tricky. But in their view, because they think they need to have a equivalent between Chinese and Western people and in their school. But we think that our hard work is not be valued enough. Yeah.
Okay,
so
great.
Yeah, so I think it's just, I don't know. I think if it might be kind of racism that you need to be fair on students' grade and not on their race to set a limit to permit them admitted to your school.
Right. Okay, I agree. Okay, what about for the government? Wilson, do you have any ideas of what type of racism could spark from the government side?
Government. Maybe I won't say like kind of racism. I would say kind of discriminate or equivalent, because there are a lot of immigration and immigrant workers,
immigrants
and immigrant workers in Taiwan, and we don't have immigrants at parliament. So maybe we should in the future we could see a lot of immigrants will vote in election. So and our indulgence in our government is minority. So that's a kind of racism.
So how can we reduce it?
We could, our parliament has a lot of problems, like we have Hakka and indulgence and Taiwanese people.
Indigenous.
But a lot, indigenous. So but the partial of the indigenous and Hakka and other minority has a few seats in parliament. So in the future, I think we could increase the seat and set a new standards for our minority to support our indigenous and other minority.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. What about for the police, Billy? What do you think? Is there any form of racism there?
Yeah, I think in Taiwan, the police, we don't have such a race discrimination happen in a police system, but it's a very serious or bad situation in Western countries, for example, American. So we can see a lot of TV news from American or UK or South Africa. The white police check or examine the blacks without any respect. So I think it is unfair because we are all human beings. We all have the same right to survive, and we are all equal.
Right. So it's America, right? American is the people. America is the country. Right.
America.
Right. So how can we reduce this? What do you think for the police?
First of all, I think politicians or president need to take the responsibility. If you take a good demonstration on this policy and to promote, to teach the police, I think the police will follow and will eject the policy to the regulation. So I think the politician take a most important responsibility in this role. And second, we also need to make some law to protect the different race. Let's go.
Okay, great. So for Evan, what about for jobs? Do you think that when you're finding a new job or when you're working in a specific job that there's any racism, and how we can reduce it? Please provide your answer within a minute.
Yeah, I think the racism is still then in I don't know, maybe currently when I find a job and I apply a job, I didn't think there are any racism, and I even I know, but I don't know that I know that in our public system they have a rule that every unit have a percentage of indigenous people. Yeah. So, but I don't know in the private system. Yeah. But for example in my
the same.
Yeah, and for example in my hospital, there are also because in Taiwan we know that the majority is Han and the minorities are indigenous people, but there are still a lot of indigenous nurses and other employees in our hospital. So maybe that problem might be more in America.
Okay, right. Okay, and the last one, the streets. Wilson, what do you think?
The street, right now we still have a stereotype on black men or other like immigration immigrant workers. So like this case, Black Lives Matter, and the police have a stereotype on the black man, and the police thought the black man is quite criminal, so he take him down to the ground and cut his neck. So we have a lot of things to do to eliminate.
Okay, so how can we try to reduce it? What are some ideas? Can you give us at least one idea?
I think we can root it from education to teach children how to treat people, how to love people, and how to accept the people who have different characters.
Okay, so from education, that's very important. Great. So here, let's try to rank from the biggest to the smallest about which one of these do you think will affect or make the biggest impact, from biggest to the smallest impact that you think is going to, which of these are going to work? Okay, so do you guys need some time, or do you guys already know your order?
What is sit-ins?
Sit-ins. So sit-ins like very peaceful. So you just sit there, you know, like
okay. Okay, I know.
All the students during the sunflower parade, everyone was just sitting there. So it's like you're protesting in a very peaceful way.
Okay.
So, okay, Billy, let's give us your...
My priority, the first priority is street marches, then labor strikes, then sit-ins, then boycotts, and next petitions.
Right.
Petitions, and next is writing to politicians. The last is websites and blogs. And
wow, website and blog is your last one. Okay, this is interesting. So I would like to see, is Evan's similar to Billy's? If everyone is similar, then we can talk about why everyone has the same ideas. If not, I think that's where it's going to get interesting. So Evan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think first is labor strikes, and then boycotts, and the third is street marches, and the fourth is sit-ins, and then is petitions, and then waves and blogs, and the last is writing to politicians.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, Wilson, what about you?
My first is strike marches, and then labor strikes.
Okay.
Boycotts.
Okay.
Sit-ins.
Okay.
Petitions, and websites and blogs, and final is writing to politicians.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so here I would like to ask about why do Billy, why do you put street marches first and website and blogs the last?
Yes, I think it's very obvious that we do not agree what our government do. So we go to the street to protest the policy, to to argue, to protect, to raise the issue. Also, many social media or journalism will focus on the event. Therefore, our issue or our purpose of this issue will be focused, will be expanded, will be spread through all around the country. So it's a good method to force government to change the policy or to adjust or to do something right on the event.
Okay, so you think protest street marches are more vocal? They will create more sound so that everyone will care more about it. But Evan, you put labor strikes first. Why do you put labor strikes first?
Yeah, I think my priority is the linkage to how these measures influence our life, and I think the labor strikes influence the most. For example, last year when I planned my honeymoon and I saw the Ava Airways labor strikes, so my plan was has to be changed because I booked their ticket and it's canceled just before 1 week of my schedule. Yeah, and so I think a labor strike influences most of people's life, and it could be the most impact. Yeah.
Great. Okay, Wilson, I want to know about, you said writing to politicians is your last, the smallest impact. Why do you put that last?
Because it's a most peaceful action to voice yourself, and I don't need to use violence and go to street. So, and it's just like a sit-in, but you don't need to go down. Just writing.
But this makes it sound like writing to the politician will just throw your mail away because there's no use. Small impact.
Yes, yeah.
They won't really
maybe,
care.
Maybe.
Okay. So you think that writing to them won't make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's kind of like under the table thing. Okay, great. So let's talk about the actual article. So, Wilson, can you read until here? Okay, and then Evan, can you continue from in Ottawa?
Where?
From the beginning to here. To silence is violence, and then Evan, you start from in Ottawa.
Okay.
Until here, and then Billy, you can finish the rest. Okay, go.
Black Lives Matter protests have spread around the world after the death 2 weeks ago of George Floyd, an unarmed and handcuffed black man. Protesters in many cities around the world march in the streets. They held signs with the words "Black Lives Matter" and other slogans written on them. Many people wear T-shirts with the words "I can't breathe," "No justice, no peace," and "Silence is violence."
In Ottawa, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau joined an anti-racism demonstration. He took the knee alongside thousands of other people who silently got down on one knee. Similar protests have taken place in Australia, Mexico, South Korea, Poland, Norway, and many other countries in support in equality. Protesters told journalists why they joined the Black Lives Matter marches. A primary school teacher in London said, I have been down in support of Black people who have been ill-treated for many, many, many years. It's time for change.
An IT specialist said, we are all human beings. There should be fairness for all of us. She added that Black lives matter doesn't mean anyone else's life doesn't. A 20-year-old London stressed the need for dialogue. He said there are lots of uncomfortable conversations that people have been avoiding, but there are conversations that need to be had if we want to finally create a kind of society where Black bodies are treated equally.
Okay, great. So here, this is breathe, not breath. There's an E here, breathe. And then
Breathe.
this is worn. So the past tense of wear, right? You wear a t-shirt or wear a dress, worn t-shirts. So they were wearing these t-shirts. This is Ottawa. Yeah, and then here, this is Londoner. There's an ER, so Londoner. So the person in London. Yeah, person from London, Londoner. Yeah, great. Okay, great. So this is about the article, and let's move on to some discussion questions. Okay, so I would like you guys to think about one question before we go on to the discussion questions, is that Black Lives Matter, but a lot of the argument is saying that if you do not proactively say you are against racism, it means you are racist. Do you agree with that? Because you do not proactively say that you are not a racist, that you passively are, because you do not say anything. Okay, I want you guys to think about that, and I'm going to ask each of you this question, and I'm going to ask you some questions after you provide your answer. So think about that for 1 minute. We'll take a quick 1 minute break and then come back to the classroom again. Okay? Okay.